Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back. So real fast, just want to let you know the Couch to Crit Masterclass is back on its annual sale from now until the end of the month. So if you're looking to get really fast for really cheap, this is the best time to do it. More on that in a little bit, though. Let's get into some bike racing. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. With me, Andrew Carr, Volet Factory Racing. Good to have you, buddy.
Yeah, sweet. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. This is you right here, actually, in a very sweaty-looking kit. But it's not sweat, it's ice, because you are in Tahiti, very humid tropical climate.
Yeah.
How is the racing in Tahiti? This is wild.
Yeah, it's pretty chaotic. Kind of like local NorCal stuff, but a little higher level. Kind of similar field sizes as well, like 40, 50 guys. But a lot of French pros, domestic level pros showed up as well.
So, high quality of racing. We're already 7 stages deep into the Tour of Tahiti. What's gone on up until this point?
Yeah, so we have Ryan holding down the sprint jersey and the Masters jersey, and then we have Maddie in second place for the U23 competition. And so those are the overall kind of goals of the race.
And then definitely you guys are like trying to be opportunistic. If there's an opportunity to lock down a stage win, you're not going to pass that up.
Yeah. So we're kind of, after we do our team duties at the start, we'll be looking around for possible winning moves.
Sweet. So on that note, actually, the start, you guys got to the front immediately. Why is that?
Yeah, so there's 2 sprint points. Both of the sprint points were at the start of the stage in the first 30, 40 minutes. And so we were trying to just ride the front and keep it calm. All the previous stages had been super chaotic and ton of attacks flying until the sprint points. And so we were trying to just keep it more controlled.
So there's always a commitment and energy when you're taking the front like this. There has to be a reason for it. In this case, obviously, it's to try to secure more points for Ryan in the green sprint points jersey. But for those out there who are new to the sport thinking, why not just take the front for this entire race? It uses a lot of energy, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to go 30 miles an hour or like almost 50 Ks an hour. So you try to choose those moments wisely. Anyway, let's see how this initial sprint point plays out. And one thing I wanted to note is we're seeing VFR here on the right. That is your team, obviously. But now there's something kind of interesting going on. There are these pink jerseys, too. That is Performance Bike. Same but different, right? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the teams at this race are 5 people each. And so we had more than 5 people that wanted to go. And we were kind of planning on racing independently. But a few other French teams also had multiple teams, but they were just working together completely just...
So you're on a different team than Performance, but you would be happy if they won, and they would be happy if you guys won. It's kind of an interesting thing. The French pros were doing the same. So that's why we're seeing some cooperation with these pink jerseys. And this is Jeffrey on the front leading things out, because we are just a couple hundred meters, maybe a little bit more, 500 meters away from this first sprint, and you're going to do an effort here. And if we had a rear camera, we would see that Ryan is back there benefiting from this work you guys are doing on the front.
Yeah. So Ryan's maybe a couple of guys behind me, but there's also some French teams trying to invade our train. So we're going to see Dylan come up my inside to try to pick this pace back up.
Because 32 miles an hour is not quite fast enough. Leadouts are hard, you guys. Yeah, here he comes on the inside, just like you predicted. And you got one more pole left in you. You're slotting in.
We're going to find out. I don't know.
So you guys have to remember, too, there's 75.5 kilometers left in this race. So this isn't like the end of the race by any means. You guys have to do this effort and then manage to get back in, not get yourself dropped in the process. And this is where I think Ryan yells at you. He's like, pick it up. And you find another gear. 36 miles an hour for this lead out. This is looking pretty good. But how much more, like, where's the sprint?
Yeah, we don't know. We thought, you never know at these races. And so we were kind of just looking ahead, trying to see the line, but yeah, just holding on for dear life.
This will be a theme later in the video. We're going to foreshadow this a little bit. But the markings are either not there or inaccurate for meters to go. So in this case, it's like you're seeing cross-eyed. If we had heart rate, you would be up at over 200. And man, this guy blows the doors off the lead out. There goes Ryan on the left in the green jersey. And yeah, I mean, he doesn't win the sprint point. It looks like he got third, which I think still padded his lead in the sprint points competition. So let's fast forward to the second. But first, a little bit more about the Couch to Crit Masterclass. What is it exactly? It is an online course that contains all of the tools that you need to streamline your success in this sport. I get it. You're struggling. I've been there. I went years struggling through trial and error. I designed this course in order to streamline that whole process. Get rid of the bro science,
exactly what you need in order to get faster. Of course, contained within that are training plans. This is good for somebody brand new to the sport like EJ. You guys remember EJ from season 2? He used the Couch to Crit Masterclass training plans to get incredibly fast. We're so proud of his success. And of course, I use the same plan myself. So this is something that works if you've been in the sport for a long time, if you're just brand new to the sport. And then of course, there's nutrition, there's strategy, there's equipment. It's a comprehensive course designed to make you as fast as possible, as quickly as possible, because let's face it, coaches are expensive. And on that note, I don't want money to be the reason why you can't access this course. So even though we're in the middle of a sale period, there are still scholarships available. So I'm going to leave everything you need down in the link in the description. I urge you to check it out. Now back to the race.
Just a few kilometers later, Andrew, have you recovered at all?
Yeah, probably not. I think I got back onto the field and immediately found my way back up to the front.
Which is where you kind of need to be right now, because the sprint point's coming up. See more of these pink jerseys leading things out. Again, for Ryan, we have a sprint coming up. Do you know how far the sprint line is, though?
We had a rough estimate. A motorcycle come by waving a green flag, and so that tells you it's like a couple kilometers till the point, but you don't really know.
And leadouts are this coordinated effort in order to deliver a very well-timed effort. And all of a sudden, what's going on here? You're doing sprint numbers.
Yeah, we think I think someone was yelling that the sprint point's coming, so I just lit it up.
And if we pause it right here, I totally understand the confusion. I mean, you saw these two dudes on the right, these two locals in high-vis vests. Turns out they actually are just construction workers. This isn't the sprint, but if we go back to the old photo, it literally looks the exact same, so I understand the confusion. Unfortunately, that was not the sprint. It seemed like everybody was confused. Now Ryan's coming around you, and he's like, well, I'm just going to send it.
Yeah, might as well. I think he was frustrated with that and just used that to power his way to the next sprint point.
But he made it. It was like another kilometer or something, and it ended up working out. Ryan's super strong, and he was well positioned by you guys. Even though it was premature, he just ended up still rolling away and getting it. So he even further pads his green jersey lead. Job done in the first half of this race. How much energy did it cost you?
I don't even know. Maybe, hopefully not too much.
So time to sit in, rest, and see how the rest of this race plays out. Okay, Andrew, so we've paused here. We've picked up action because we're 51 kilometers left, and there still isn't a breakaway. There's all this tension in the field. And there's actually a small group of 2 off the front right now. When you see the field swell like this, things are slowing down. Great opportunity for a counterattack. That's exactly what you're doing. Tell us the motivation here.
Yeah, so most of these stages the winds have come through a breakaway, and so you're just kind of always looking out for good opportunities with no GC threats or people like that.
And this dude in front of you is one of the French pros, and he gladly takes up the chase effort because, like we said earlier, Jeffrey on Performance Bike is up the road. Not teammates, but also like frenemies.
Yeah.
He's up the road, and you got a free pull right there. That looked pretty good. If we had a rear cam, we would see that you guys have separation. But these early moments in a breakaway are always so critical because there can't be any indecision. Like this guy in the red decides to let the wheel go of Jeffrey, like can't have that. And you're again gonna kind of look to your right and be like, "Hey, what are you doing, buddy?"
Yeah.
And he picks it up, and he seems very strong. You said that you saw him in previous stages, right?
Yeah. I think he's been in multiple winning breaks. I don't think he's gotten a stage win yet, so I think he's still motivated to get to the finish line first.
And he's again closing this gap down. It's your frenemy Jeffrey up there. So there's now this group of 3. Rider in the red, who was kind of up there momentarily, has been dropped. And homie is smashing. Like, you are doing 450 in his draft, 33 miles an hour. Like I said earlier, like the early stages of a breakaway are the most important when you're establishing that gap. There has to be cohesion. And as you guys link up with Jeff, who's up there just motoring, like Jeff was on a good day for sure.
Yeah, this is Jeff's bread and butter.
Yeah, and I can't believe, dude, you did all that work setting up Ryan for the break, or for the sprint points, and you still have the energy to follow this one. So this is looking pretty good. And like I said earlier, props to this French pro. We don't know his name, sorry. But he is doing a really good job to motivate you guys to continue working. He doesn't chase down Jeff and immediately just throw the towel and be like, okay, I've made it, now what? He knows how breakaways work. He gets to the front, he continues working, and he is extending that gap. Because again, if we had a rear camera, we would see that behind there is now a significant gap back to the chase group, which isn't really a chase group, it's just a peloton which has kind of resigned to the fact that there's this breakaway. And then you do the right move here, which is get to the front and immediately rotate. And this is like how things play out the rest of the day, essentially, right?
Yeah, we keep rotating, kind of watching the gap and raising our pace based on that. And we know there's a 10-minute climb at the end, so we're all kind of thinking about that.
10-minute climb at the end. We are going to talk about that in a second, but as we fast forward, you guys can see exactly what a functional breakaway looks like. Everyone's taking their turn. You guys are continuing to extend your gap. You're getting time checks from the moto. This is a road race, but it's relatively short. You guys end up pulling out, what would you say, almost 3 minutes?
Yeah, I think it got up to 3 minutes, maybe dropped back down to 2 by the climb.
So with that said, let's actually fast forward to the end of this race, and let's talk about how that climb plays out. All right, Andrew, we're getting to the bitter end of this race now. We're making a left here instead of keeping going straight and going around this island of Morea. Did I say that right, by the way, Morea?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay. You're the expert on Tahiti now that you've been there for a couple of weeks. So the climb is looming. If you guys look at the mini map on the bottom right, we are just going straight up inland. For the first time, you're not going around the coast. You're going inland. And what were you told about this climb? What do we know about the climb at this point?
Yeah, I've been told it was like a 10% climb, pretty steep. And it's at the end of a race. I didn't think I had much of a shot as heavier than Jeffrey, and Jeffrey seemed like our best bet, and so I was kind of committed to working for Jeffrey.
Are you comfortable sharing like your weight, because people might be looking at the power here? You're
Yeah.
going over 300 this entire day.
Yeah. I was probably about 172 pounds at this stage race.
So like 75 kilos?
I think 79.
Okay, you guys can do the math on that.
Yeah.
So we now are motoring. And now here's an interesting thing I wanted to talk about as we're approaching the bottom of this climb. You guys are still rolling turns. What was the gap like at this point?
Yeah, so the gap was 3 minutes, and in the last 5 or 10K before we turned left, it had dropped by a minute.
So this is the motivation, because my first criticism before I started talking with you shared this footage I looked at. I was like, dude, why weren't you guys beating up on the French pro? Like, you gave him a free ride to the bottom of this climb. And then I was like, oh, because the gap was coming down. So what you don't want to do is start playing the game too soon, get caught, and then all is lost. So
Yeah.
I totally get it now, because I think the balance here that you need to consider when you're in this position, you guys listening to this, is you're not going for GC.
No, yeah.
So you don't need to nurse this like 3 minute gap. You're not trying to get to the finish as quickly as possible. You're trying to get to the finish first. It doesn't matter if it's by a 1 second gap or a 10-minute gap. You're not going to be winning the GC.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's what you're thinking about. And when you have a couple of teammates and then one non-teammate, you want to make him tired. So you want to do this 1-2 attacking, which I didn't see you guys doing. Meaning somebody attacks, French guy follows, your teammate sits in his draft.
Yeah.
Recycle. Keep doing that over and over. But you had a tenuous gap that you were nursing.
Yeah. On the way to the climb, I had told Jeff that maybe when we get closer, we start 1-2ing. But since the gap was dropping so fast, I was worried that maybe they were... The day before, a similar thing had happened where all the French teams started working together to pull back Ryan, who was off the front, and a 2-minute gap came down almost immediately. So I was worried of that happening again.
Right. That's a really tricky situation, because the worst thing you could do is get caught at the very end of this race, because then you're not going to even get third. Third would be the worst case scenario, but if
Yeah.
you get caught, you're going to get not third. You're going to get last. So anyway, I'm going to fast forward a little bit here, but you guys can look at the power that Andrew is doing up this grade. And also, it was kind of pitchy. You can see that you are doing work here for sure, over 400 watts. This deep into a race is much easier said than done. And I like this move because if you guys look in the right-hand side there, I'm showing the grade. And your effort is, when you're still going, 15 miles an hour on a 4% grade, that means Jeffrey is benefiting from that draft. Because when it pitches up to like it is now, you're going 10 miles an hour, it's an 8 or a 9% grade. Drafting, not so much. You're just fighting gravity at that point. But Jeff's taking the front here. He looked so strong. Like, I would have wanted to see him maybe attack earlier or something like that. You get to the front again. At this point, at this great. Well, actually, it's coming back down again, so you're going 16 miles an hour. Another smart move to give Jeffrey some more rest. But this is a bit tricky. I'm going to slow it back down here with about 1,500 meters to go, and I think we'll just watch the rest of this thing play out. How are you feeling at this point? Were you thinking Jeff's got a pretty good shot? What are you thinking you can contribute to his success?
Yeah, so I'm a little probably lightheaded, dizzy, but this deep in, you don't really feel the legs anymore or the body. I was just kind of thinking of what I could do to help. And in my head, I was still thinking of 1-2s. The gradient's really all over the place, so it kind of gets steep, then it gets flat, be a hard U-turn or anything like that. So I'm thinking, I think my best bet at helping him would be to try to attack and make the French guy do something stupid or just pull me back on a flatter section, hopefully.
Yeah. And you've been doing that up to this point. I think that was a really good move. But one thing I want to point out, as we're inside of 1 kilometer, now we're 700 meters to go, and 1 kilometer?
Yeah.
So we know now after the fact that the 1 kilometer is not accurate. In fact, it's 650 meters. This is very consequential in your decision making this deep into a race.
Yeah.
So tell us what you're doing here.
Yeah, so as I was getting dropped, they slowed down, and so I had some momentum, I guess probably like 2 miles per hour, and I decided to send it. I didn't think I was going to make it because I was so on the limit already, but just give Jeffrey something to play with, or if he thinks that's the best move. So,
but when you did it, it was like a 4% gradient. If you guys rewind and watch that, and then of course it kicks back up to like 12. But now you're into 6 and 7. I'm going to fast forward a little bit more, and you're still doing work. It seems like you're just kind of dumping it now. 350 meters to go. Of course, it's not actually 350 meters to go. It's 500 meters to go according to the signage on the side of the road. So, yeah, this is all a bit confusing, which you'll see here in a moment as we get to the end of this race. Those bad markings are going to become incredibly consequential. Do you claw your way back up to these front two guys? This was such an interesting battle. I think do you end up making your way back up to these guys?
I think I get close, but I am so on the limit. I think there was I've got the motorcycles behind me yelling to me to like go farther. I was just trying, but not much left in the body.
You are crawling your way back. Jeffrey's still sitting in the draft. This is looking pretty good. 200 meters to go. Of course, it's only 130 meters to go. You give Jeff some parting words here. And this looks so good to me if it was, in fact, 200 meters to go. Because at this gradient, 200 meters to go is like still another, 35 seconds. And it looked like Jeffrey was just getting let out. Of course, when you turn this corner, you're like, ruh-roh, that's not 200 meters to go. It's 30 more meters to go from this point. So, unfortunately, French guy gets the best of you guys.
Yeah.
I think he did his homework and looked at the course maybe and realized 200 was not actually 200.
Yeah, I think he's probably done the stage before.
It seemed like it because he attacked at a moment that was way too early. And it was funny right there. Jeffrey was like, dude, that was not 200 meters. He recognized it right away. But yeah, the French guy had some course knowledge and fair play. I feel like he deserved the win. He knew that was the last corner. Otherwise, there's no way. As a sprinter myself, I would have gone that early if it was in fact 200 meters uphill. But second, third, bittersweet. You guys, I'm sure, were hoping for first.
Yeah. I think I was second the day before, and so I was really hoping to get one of us up there. But and there's the GC guys just finishing, so the gap
really came down. That was like 30 seconds.
Yeah, got close.
Pretty wild how much faster you can climb when you've been sitting and you're fresh all day. You've been doing 300 watts. So anyway, Andrew, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. We have more stages. If you guys are interested in more Tahiti footage to motivate you throughout this off season, let us know. And thanks again, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks for having me.